what can I do? Can I change your job? No. Can I take away your 5 kids? No. You have a whatever complex situation that you have to get through. Can I change that? No. But these are the things that people talk about when they cause stress.
My question is that person even stressed? How do you know that this person is stressed or not? What is it
if you're talking chemically, their heart rate will be higher, their inflammatory markers, they are under constant stress, the inflammatory markers will be higher, their adrenaline, you can check all those, but I don't think we do. If you're under constant stress.
Right. Most people know it. They'll complain and tell you about being stressed. The people that are not stressed will tell you, I'm not stressed. Are you sick? Then maybe you're sick for other reasons. Okay. The most common thing that people want to associate with causes for disease is saying that maybe you're stressed. But then if you ask the other guy, says like, well, I'm not stressed, but I have heart disease. Then what do you do about that, right? The point is, for that particular situation, then you measure all these levels. But again, I can tell you is modifying stress does not happen with medicine. I can tell you that. It's for those that are stressed. For those that are not stressed, well, they're fortunate. But again, I tell people is that the most important thing is then understanding if all of these levels are markers of stress and all of these levels result in these things we're worried about, heart disease, heart failure, like I said, your elevated CRP levels and all stuff, then you need to find a way to manage that stress, right? Or you need to find a way to bring that down. We can do medicines for certain things, but then what else do you do? That's why I find this profound effect of why people have been harping on exercise as an important piece. Because even if you are stressed, whenever you're the CEO of a job, I tell you, if you go do exercise on a reasonably decent basis, you can be the CEO of any company one and say I'm not stressed. I do think that's possible. Because it's a matter of changing the modulation of your system in trying to allow the hormones that help your system relax, suppress your stress hormones, even if you're in a stressful situation, even if you do a stressful job. That's why meditation matters. That's why you now see celebrities, everyone one of them says, I do transcendental meditation, this and that. It's important, otherwise they cannot deal with their jobs. They cannot do what they do. They'll be in madhouses soon, or they'll quit their jobs, or they'll start doing drugs. It's another great way to manage stress. Maybe not a long way to manage stress, but a long-lasting way to do it. But that's the point, is you are substituting the hormones that are within you. That's another interesting fact is I used to work with a psychiatrist. We'd go to the hospitals and we'd be on rounds, and he'd look at this guy and he says, what kind of drug did you do before? I said, well, I used to do cocaine and all sorts of stuff. He says, okay. And what I think you did, you borrowed too much happiness from the future. But that's really what's happening. Is you're borrowing happiness from the future by pouring out all of these hormones that are like cocaine. What does cocaine do? Cocaine gives you a massive rush of adrenaline and hormones that stimulate. It makes you feel great for a little bit, but what have you done? You borrowed happiness from the future. I think it's a very profound statement, but point being is your body has only a certain amount of hormones that necessarily can generate. It's your duty to build the other set. That's where exercise, that's where yoga, and that's what all of these philosophies came about, because they were meant to counter things that cause you to be stressful without taking drugs, without needing an external source, or without burning that source out.
I think
that's why I'm very, very profound about the things you can do any level of job, you can do any level of stressful thing. I operate. I'm still young. I keep telling myself every time something goes wrong is I'm going to be old fast. But point being is I've had to find ways to necessarily do that. I've had to find ways over time to, and various people have various ways of doing it. I think again, exercise and yoga is extremely powerful. I tell that you need to start that with kids. It's nice that as adults we're doing this, but the time to intervene, I really think, is kids. A lot of kids now are very stressed out. They're not certain about their future. Competition is very, very heavy. People want to do something that is, they want to be relevant in society, but I think there's just so much pressure. How do you darn deal with that? That's where parenting and whatever all this other stuff comes about, but you need some way to let go of stress without resorting to things that get you in trouble.
I think you're bringing a very close to my heart point that meditation should be introduced early to kids. And sometimes it's hard to sell meditation to kids. So one of the reasons I had both my kids do Taekwondo is that's a different type of exercise meditation. So that's just an introduction. And now slowly I'll bring them into the other types of meditation when they're a little bit more receptive. They're not there yet, but I do talk about it. I do try to explain what meditation
What
is.
age do you recommend for kids?
Any age. I mean, it's just Nirav Sheth, he does Sunday 10 o'clock temple meditation. So take your kids there. Priya, I think, is doing it at Gita Ashram, pranayam, and then any age is fine. And they may not know if they're doing it right or wrong, but somehow just introducing and keep going at it will be beneficial. And again, their brains are not formed. I mean, the frontal part of the brain is not changed into adult brain till age 24. So they do wrong decision making up until even into 20s. So teens, early teens, late teens, even 20s, anytime, just introduce meditation.
Right. But you can measure levels of stress. But you probably go ask your doctor to do that, probably won't do that. But I think it's a research-based tool for us to understand the impact of something we do and what happens after you put that impact. But I think at the end of the day, where we are in society is none of us is not stressed.
And meditation does not change your circumstances, it just changes your outlook. So you may still have the same stress, you may still have the same boss, but you'll be like, that's okay, I can deal with that this way. So it just changes your perspective in life. I mean, I think I was stuck in that blizzard, on that Minnesota blizzard, mid 394. If it was my old me, I would have really panicked. My heart rate would have gone up. I just stopped. I was like, okay, what can I do now? Step 1, 2, 3, go on it. And then if this is not happening, 911 will come and get me at some point. So I think I was a different myself than maybe 5 years ago. Just giving a personal example.
And I deal with a lot of 20-year-olds, women, unfortunately too, that have resulted or have had diseases, or not even diseases, but some level of whatever stress has actually derailed their hormonal system. She knows there's something called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. Very young people cannot do anything, they're tired constantly, cannot even stand and all this stuff. Why? Because it's just broken their hormonal system. There's ways to sort of rebuild it again, but it's not. When you see these people, and many people think they're crazy. For some reason, me and my former boss took a lot of interest in dealing with these people, but it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. People that want to be very productive, but just sheerly by stress have destroyed their hormonal system. You can see it. Measure the hormones. It's broken. And so then how do you fix that? It's not such an easy process. And so that's why I tell people, exercise has much more to do with a lot of things in life. And that's where yoga, yoga philosophy, if you look at all philosophies, if you read Vedic, no one has told you what diet to eat. There's nothing that whole this thing is. There's pages and pages and pages of what yoga is, what forms of yoga, all of the yoga shastras and all this sort of stuff, what, postures, this, that, meditation thing, fully laid. Not a single word or very few words about what to eat. It's very, very clear what to eat, Even the Rudram and all this other stuff, it's just, all you want is food, but what food? Nobody tells you what to eat. It's very, very clear all this, and I think there's a reason why all of this was highly very emphasized, because it remains sort of the mainstay of how we stay healthy and happy. And so I think, again, you do your best to modify what you eat or try to eat what your mom fed you. It's hard to do.
So one last question, CT coronary angiogram, just your two-sentence take on it.
Sure. So she was going to invite Dan Saxon to necessarily give a talk on this. He's an interventionalist, and these people focus heavily on looking at coronary vessels and looking at risk factors necessarily. So CRP levels, we have an HS-CRP level. So if you're worried about stress, you can actually have that measured. It's a risk factor for developing coronary artery disease. But again, you have to find a way to manage your stress then after that. So once you know your number, you got to figure it out. Same thing with your CAC score, or your coronary artery calcium score. It's a very cheap test, like Abbott or Northwestern.
I think it's $100, Alina Wide, all radiology, CDI. They run it. You can just private pay.
$100, $200, $250 to necessarily do it. What you have to be ready for is to know what to do with that information. Okay, that's why I tell you, right now the mainstay of primary care is measuring your LDL level, measuring your HDL level, measuring your triglyceride levels, measuring things for diabetes, because you can actually do something about it. Measuring your HS-CRP level means.
What is this HS-CRP again?
It's basically high sensitivity CRP. I was talking about reactive protein. It measures inflammation within your system. It's a well-known thing, particularly if you're obese and have a lot of abdominal fat and whatnot. So risk factors, we're talking about risk factors for development of coronary artery disease. Along those lines, we've looked at, but this is now one of the other major tools we're using. But if I know that number, I don't have a tool to fix that number. That's where I think in the world of cardiology we're a little behind, is if I have an elevated coronary artery calcium score, I don't have a tool for reducing that number, except ask you to lower your cholesterol and manage your diabetes well. Which is why, again, those are probably the two more important things to know than to do all of this additional testing and then now have something at the back of your mind about what to worry about. So like I said, my interventional colleagues may maybe have a little difference in opinion, but I say, if you give me a test, you need to give me a solution for the results of that test. If you don't, then I go back to the same things we're talking about today. Diet and exercise, all right? And fine, is that an incentive enough for you to go and to start diet and exercise? Then fine, go do this. That's what I tell people is, if you need a motivation to go and do these things, then go get yourself this. But what do you have in your back of your mind now? I told people, I don't know my number. I think I'm doing okay. And I'm doing the best I can, right? I don't think you can do any better than this.
I mean,
now
you have ideal
some
body
back
fat
in my
index.
mind, I'd be like, I don't know what to do anymore. I can't exercise more than I do. And I don't want to give up some of the nice things I eat. I try to do my best with eating. She knows I don't eat lunch. But the point is that I do the best. I'm doing the best I can. But now having this additional knowledge, I'm 37, what am I going to do with that data? Right? So I tell people is the mainstay of where primary care is still important. If your blood pressure is high, we can treat it. But you continue to do your exercise and diet. If your cholesterol is high, we can treat it. Then you continue to do your diet and exercise. If you're diabetic, we can treat it. Then you can continue. But if you have an elevated CAC score or your coronary artery calcium score, what are you going to do to treat it? I'm going to tell you to go and do diet and exercise. Now you have this other piece in the back of your mind saying, well, now I already know I have a risk for coronary artery disease.
My stress is increasing.
When am I going to wait for my heart attack? I don't know. I don't want to predict when my next heart attack is. So I think the point again for some of these tests are until we have a more clear way of necessarily modifying risk based on that information, then fine. If you go talk to someone in prevention, they'll try aggressively bring down your cholesterol levels. And I think that's one way to necessarily deal with it. But if you already know you have a predisposition for that, checked out. So if you're 40 plus,